Down on the beach here for part 3 of this series, looking at the symbols of Easter. And we're here in front of a popular viewpoint in Morecambe, the view of the fishing boats. The tide's out, so the boats are lying idle. But when the tide's up and they're bobbing up and down, it reminds me of when I was a youngster and I felt quite ill on a fishing boat. So it's not always a happy memory for me. But Jesus spent a lot of time around Lake Galilee. Now on Lake Galilee, a lot of people fished for a living. And Jesus invited several of those fishermen to follow him, and they did. And one of them was called Simon. Now Simon became the leader of Jesus' followers. If there were a football team, Simon would have been the captain. He was one who's always at the front of the queue, always wanting to say how much he supported Jesus. But as we've just looked at the meal that Jesus shared with his disciples, at the end of that, Jesus says to Simon, "Simon, you're going to let me down." But Simon says, and Luke writes about it in the book, he says, "I'm not going to do that, Jesus. I'm ready to go to prison for you, even to death," Simon says. But later on that night, Jesus is arrested. All the disciples flee away. They leave Jesus. Jesus is taken away, and Simon tries to get close to find out what's happening to Jesus. But there are people there, and they say to Simon, "You're one of those who was with Jesus, aren't you?" And Simon says, "No, I wasn't." Someone else says, "You are, you were with Jesus." And he says, "No, I wasn't." And he says again, "You were with Jesus." And Simon says, "No, I wasn't." And at that point, the cock crowed. And Jesus said, when the cock crowed, that would be when you would know that you'd let me down. And that is exactly what happened. It says in the Bible that that Simon was full of sorrow, full of sadness. He'd let Jesus down. He wept bitterly. This reminds us that often the things we try to do, we often let ourselves down. We say we're not going to do it, but we end up doing it. This is what the Bible says is our rebellion against God. We let God down time and time again. We've seen Jesus coming as a king, coming to fight a battle. It is this, the problem of the human heart, that is the battle that Jesus has come to fight. Join us next time for part 4. Thank you.